Mic test. Again, good morning to everybody. It's nice to see familiar faces. Some of them I have been attending this Spring Rain Global Conference since 2017, way back in Singapore. Who among you joined that conference at Santec in Singapore in 2017? Please raise your hand. What about in 2018 in Bali, Indonesia? 2019, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I told you. I can see familiar faces here. And now here we are, 2024 in Bangkok, Thailand. This morning, I have been tasked to kick off this year's event with a presentation of the philanthropy landscape here in Asia. I will be mentioning some areas which I think should be the focus of our philanthropic activities this year and in the immediate years to come, as well as some suggestions on how to go about it. Philanthropy, I'm sure all of you know, literally means love for humanity. And it plays a crucial role in the upliftment, development, and promotion of the various dimensions of a person and the different aspects of life. Of particular interest in this case is man's social and economic life, which has a strong impact on the way man expresses his dignity, exercises his rights, and develops himself. While every nation tries to work on it through governmental means, we simply cannot rely on the public services and aid provided by the state alone. Groups and individuals with a generous heart and an authentic love and concern for others are necessary. They supplement and complete what is lacking from the services and help coming from public institutions. Hopefully, with philanthropic assistance, the various needs of people from all over the world would be satisfied and their situations would be improved and rendered conducive to people's full development and growth as human dignity deserves. Talking about people's needs, the list is not only long, but also complex. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, identified and adopted by the United Nations in 2015, is just a good starting point. They cover most of man's pressing needs today and address their more urgent concerns. As you can see on this slide, we speak, for example, of poverty, hunger, health, education, sanitation, employment, climate change, pollution, peace, justice, etc. The target date for their realization is the year 2030. Some are pessimistic as to whether the UN would succeed in reaching its goals by 2030, but this should not dishearten us, but rather challenge us more to work better and harder, and to unify our efforts to contribute in one way or another to the attainment of such goals. However, philanthropy is not an abstract idea, but a concrete course of action to take. Love for humanity must be expressed in concrete, tangible ways. To translate it into something concrete and real, philanthropy must take into account not only the pressing needs of humanity, it must also consider certain factors that, in varying degrees, influence and condition the way we share our resources, the way they are received by their beneficiaries, and the way they are properly used and invested. It is necessary in this case to pay attention to certain global issues to watch in the current year 2024. Now, last December 2023, the UN Foundation identified at least 5 of the global issues to watch out for in 2024, and I would like to highlight some of them in my presentation. You may want to read the December 15, 2023 report of Megan Robert and MJ Altman in this case. Megan Robert is the media and content director of the UN Foundation, while MJ Altman is a senior communications officer of the UN Foundation. So let me start with the first of these global issues to watch out for in 2024. Next slide, please. First global issue is the existence of world crisis. First and foremost, the year 2024 is considered as a year of global crisis on different levels: health, environment, politics, war and violence, and so forth. We are now in a so-called new normal mode of living under the COVID-19 pandemic. The virus still exists, and variants of it appear from time to time, but it is no longer considered as a world health crisis as before. The pandemic has revealed the inadequacy of our health system in many ways and brings to the fore the urgent need to upgrade and improve our health systems. As to environmental crisis, we know that many countries currently struggle with pollution of various types: air pollution, water pollution, ground pollution. Plastic pollution, for example, chokes our oceans, adversely affects human health, and damages ecosystems vital to our livelihoods. More than 430 million tons of plastic are produced each year, 2/3 of which is cast aside as waste just after one use. Experts say that if trends continue, plastic waste will triple by the year 2060, with dire consequences for both ecosystems and human health. Air pollution is of equal concern. It is one of the greatest environmental threats to public health globally and accounts for an estimated 7 million premature deaths every year. As to war and violence, war has been on the rise since about the year 2012, after a decline in the 1990s and the early 2000s. Think of recent and ongoing conflict situations in the world: in Libya, in Yemen, and Syria in 2011, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Ethiopia, Myanmar in 2021, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine in 2023, just to name a few. We realize that problems overlap, and hence they should not be treated in isolation. For example, air pollution has a strong impact on health. Poverty influences crime rate. Politics and the declaration of war go together. Experts agree that there is a need to confront issues in a unified and coordinated way. Talking about the 17 SDGs of the UN, we need to move away from the emphasis on individual SDGs to champion and engage instead in a transformative way across all the 17 SDGs. Programming around 2 or 3 agendas simultaneously can prove to be quite helpful. In the Caribbean region, for example, they realized that more funds were made available for climate change issues. They then joined issues together in order to gather more funds and use them appropriately. They joined them to issues concerning justice, as to enable the easy and smooth realignment of available resources from one advocacy to another. Perhaps this is one thing that philanthropy today should focus on joint programming around different advocacies instead of just focusing on single or individual SDGs. Next issue. Next slide, please. The crucial role of politics. The UN Foundation also underscored the crucial role that politics play in the way resources are allotted, distributed, and used in the society. We know that every nation prepares and approves an annual budget. There are political priorities on the agenda, and money is allotted to them accordingly. If no budget is put aside for certain social issues, then chances are that people would not have any fund to use when crises concerning such issues arise. For example, how much money in your government's annual budget is allotted for education, for health, for social services, for defense, for risk management, and calamities? The year 2024, this year, almost 40 elections of various types, general, national, regional, presidential, parliamentary, are scheduled to take place in Asia. For example, we have the forthcoming presidential and Senate election in Taiwan, a presidential election in Vietnam and Sri Lanka, a general election in Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India, a national assembly in Bhutan and Nepal, and so forth. Experts rightly point out that our future is on the ballot. Hopefully, the people who will get elected would prioritize the main concerns and needs of the people and not their own interest. Now, while it all depends on the people who will occupy government posts after the election, and most of us do not directly participate in politics, we can influence their decisions. We can lead them to ratify agreements and issue political declarations to address certain issues. And in this way, we can put certain issues on their list of political priorities. Third issue. Next slide, please. The need to fix the existing financial system. Experts also point out the need to fix our existing finance system. The way the world handles funding is insufficient, unsustainable, and inequitable. There is a need for an international financial reform, and again, it is in the hands of our policymakers to work on this. Many are optimistic that with the new leadership at the World Bank, better ways of mobilizing resources will come about. This would probably be part of the agenda of the G20 summit to be held in Brazil this coming November 2024. Next year, it will be South Africa's turn to host the summit. The theme of this year's G20 summit is quite interesting: building a just world and a sustainable planet, which corresponds with the aspirations of global philanthropy. The recently concluded COP28, or the 28th UN Climate Change Conference, also known as the Conference of the Parties, held in Dubai last November-December 2023, highlighted the growing gap between the needs of developing countries and the money provided to cut emissions. It was agreed to transition away from fossil fuels and to focus more on renewable sources of energy and to allot more funding to it. The COP28 also was able to solicit financial commitments, and a deal was reached aimed at helping the most climate vulnerable countries. These are just examples of how finance resources can be better used to address global needs. Of course, much more is needed to fix the world finance system. Monetary policy governing loans and interest rates are just part of it. Proper investment and responsible financial management is also necessary. Needless to say, money does impact the way philanthropy works. Donors are also affected by financial systems, and so are the people and organizations they help. Next issue. Next slide, please. Promotion of human rights and equality. There is an increasing need to safeguard people's rights, particularly of women, children, and young people today. Many of them live in the most densely populated countries in the world. Statistics show that by the end of the century, 80% of the global population will be in Africa and Asia. Talking about children in particular, one expert pointed out that when we think about achieving the SDGs and securing a better world, we have to be thinking about the places that will be home to the majority of future generations. We talk about the need to provide them with access to education, health services, future employment, among others. Unless such fundamental needs are met, abuse, exploitation, and violation of their rights come easily. The promotion of human rights goes hand in hand with the fight for equality. There are still many countries here in Asia where women in particular are deprived of their rights to economic independence and education because of their gender. We need to recognize the crucial role that women today can play in bringing about social change. They must be given the chance to participate fully, for example, in peace and security matters. Many countries here in Asia have a rather conservative way of looking at things, and that includes the way women are looked upon and ideas about the limitations of what many think women should be doing. Such conservative way of looking at things are often associated with religious beliefs or are simply part of old social traditions. Philanthropy is challenged to bring about certain changes in this case. One way of doing this is by empowering women and getting them more actively involved in philanthropic activities in various fields. Philanthropy presupposes equal rights and recognizes the same dignity of all, independent of one's gender. Last issue, next slide please. The UN Foundation mentions the need for the UN to bolster its credibility. In the past 70, 80 years of its existence, the UN has been a vital and indispensable institution. In fact, the only global platform that gives a voice to every country and person on earth. It fosters conversations around the world's biggest problems and is the best platform to find collective solutions. Philanthropy promotes the same SDGs of the UN, and it would be best to establish link with such a venerable institution. We can do this, for example, through active participation in summits and conferences organized by the UN, or by being signatories to the various declarations and agreements endorsed by it, or even by sending representatives to the UN. Many religious orders, for example, do have representation at the UN. Other institutions can do the same. It is one way of letting them know our needs and also soliciting their support and help. So to conclude, based on the insights I have shared with you this morning, we can say that philanthropy has a vital role to play in the landscape of Asia today, which along with Africa is expected to be the most populous continent in the world in the years to come. It is a region with a dense population of women, children, and young people who find themselves in precarious situations due to health problems, conflict situations, environmental issues, violation of human rights and dignity, and so forth. It is where different types of crises converge and where more collaborative and unified philanthropic actions are needed. It is where politics plays a crucial role in determining the future of peoples and where political leaders must hear them and put their concerns on their priority list. Lastly, it is where people are in dire need of better public services and financial support. It is my fervent hope that in the remaining months of this year 2024 and in the years to come, we would see a significant growth in the philanthropy landscape in Asia. All of us can contribute to such growth. All of us can do something to help our more needy brothers and sisters and alleviate their helpless situations. Let us continue to work together and collaborate with the various organizations of our society in fulfilling the same aspirations that we share with the UN. Together, we can fight poverty and hunger, create a healthy and safe world, promote education, uphold fundamental human rights and equality, lessen pollution, and in this way, enable people to grow and develop according to their full potentialities. Thank you for listening.